Hey everybody, how we doing? Let's take a look at our second and third pieces of the definition essay. Now I'm going to look at part 2 here, although part 3 is exactly the same with just a different text, okay? So the video for here will also work on part 3. You just have to use a different text with it. We start off with like a little bit of what we're trying to do. As a reminder, the first part of this essay was your definition of what is an American. You started with the dictionary definition. The dictionary says this. This is why it's incomplete, what you need to do to add to it, expand on it, build on it. And then you have that thesis statement that says, this is what I believe an American is. Then we move into part 2 and then into part 3 afterwards. And this is where you take the text that we've been reading, you take the different readings that we've done, and that you look at how those compare. What did they say about an American, and how does that compare to what you believe an American is? Okay, when you are looking at those texts, okay, you have 5 that you can pick from. You have the Two Clashing Meanings of Free Speech by Teresa Bejan. That was on January the 9th. When you go on to that assignment, you'll see a couple different documents. Make sure you get the one that says the comparing, or I'm sorry, the Two Clashing Meanings. You get FDR's speech at the Statue of Liberty at the 50th anniversary of Statue of Liberty. That was on January the 18th. I gave you both speeches from Obama and Trump about their immigration plans. That was on January the 23rd. You may use either of those texts. And then you have on January the 30th, you have the J. Hector St. John de Crevecoeur, What is an American? And that was on January the 30th. Again, that is the one that I think a lot of people have kind of gravitated to, simply because the title is what our essay is about, right? So that does give you some, kind of gives you a quick logical tie-in. You also have some artwork both on January the 5th and on the 18th that you could use. January 5th, those are about the American dream. Those were images about the American dream. And then you had the one on the 18th was the immigrants on the steamboat looking at the Statue of Liberty when they first got to Staten Island. You may use those images as well. I think it's a little harder to use those texts because it's a little more of symbolic meaning, right? Like you have to refer to specific pieces, but it still does work. And if you want to use those, you are welcome to do that. So the first step I would suggest in the pre-writing process is on this second page, where it is looking at how they have defined, how that author has defined an American. Again, I'm looking at part 2. This is applicable to part 3 as well. So I would list off the text that you're using. Okay, the Two Clashing Meanings of Free Speech by Bejan. Okay, great. That way you know what you're looking at. Which strategy did they use? Okay, so we have the four definition strategies that we've been talking about. You have first off classification. That's where I take all this stuff and then I divide it into groups, right? Here's a group, here's a group, here's a group. And then exemplification is where you reach into that and then you pull out a specific example, right? Like you say, see this one item, this one person, this one thing, this represents everything in this group because, and you talk about the qualities or the characteristics of whatever this has as it relates to everybody else, right? You also have negation when you say, hey, here's a thing, this is not, right? This is a thing because it is not, right? And you describe it in the negative. So an American is not somebody who does this, right? And then we have function, and that's how something works, like the duties, the duties of, the job of, the things that this person is supposed to be doing, right? So you would define which one of those definition strategies did you see in that person's work. Now, you will note that in most of these works, they have multiple versions of this, right? Like all of them have multiple definition strategies. They all have that. You only pick one. Only just pick the one. And then an example. Where did you see that? So if you say they use classification, here's a chunk, paste it right in here. So we know how they define an American. What was the example? Then we get down here to the spiel pre-writing piece. And again, this is to help you organize your thoughts and your ideas and get everything all in one piece. Pretty straightforward, exactly what we've done before. Briefly describe the work, right? when FDR gave a speech at the 50th anniversary of the Statue of Liberty, and he was describing the role that immigrants had in building up America. Give that one sentence summary of, like, there's the thing that was about. What was that strategy? In this, they said they defined an American by using classification. They used negation to explain what an American is. All right. Then give that example. Now, you just found those 2 points above, right? In that part above, you just found that. Down here, then, give that example and then explain that. I believe, he's saying an American is whatever, right? Like, use that explanation, use that definition to explain what they say an American is. Now, this last part, this link part, where you make it real for your audience, this is where you're going to compare it to your idea, right? Like, that's a good idea. I really like the way they frame this is what American is. Much like what I said American is, they said something very similar. Or say, that's not a complete definition of America because, I believe an American should be more about this. How does your and their explanations differ? Now, this chart up here and this chart here are both pre-writing. They're both there to get you started, both there to help you get your ideas organized and moving. You put your final paragraph right down here. This is the part that I grade. There's also the spiel parts down here to give you some examples. I know several of you are, you guys do a lot of color coding. I know a lot of you go through and you color code all the pieces. Not necessary, but I do like that you are thinking in that. Did I have the summary? Did I have the explanation? Did I have that link, right? Not a bad approach. I don't need it to be, but if it works for you, please continue doing that. As a reminder, this is the part that I grade, right? This paragraph is the part that I grade. If you don't do the pre-writing, that's going to be completely up to you. But what I've been telling people is that if I get this paragraph and I'm not seeing, like, what are we trying to do here? What was the goal? If I go back up into the pre-writing and I can see what your thought process is, that helps me kind of, determine if you were going in the right direction or not. But again, the paragraph is the only part that is graded. Please do not stop right here. Okay, do the pre-writing and stop and then hit submit, because that's not done, right? You have to do that paragraph in the end. As always, as you are working on this, please make sure you're reaching out to Ms. McGuire if you have any questions at all. We are going to take your definition. We're going to put it with this piece and then with the third. Okay, so those are both the same. It's the same process, just different text. Okay, and then we're going to put all that together to define and compare definitions of free speech. Good luck, everybody.